So thank you everybody for joining us for the post-peak parcel roast. Say that 10 times fast, not easy, but excited to get into this today. I've been hyping it up quite a bit on LinkedIn, so I hope you enjoy what we have for you. My name's Taylor Pawelka. For those of you who don't know, I'm the VP of Marketing and Alliances at ProShip. And before I get intros for our panelists, I just want to do a couple housekeeping things. So we have attendees joining us on LinkedIn Live, as well as our webinar platform that's called Goldcast. Webinar platform attendees, you can engage with us through the Q&A and chat, I think, too. Members of our team will talk with you there if you have questions. We'll get to questions at the end. We also have some links displayed for some of our panelists and representing some of the companies that are here today. And then if you are joining us on LinkedIn Live, you can engage with us through the chat there. So members of our team will answer any questions or chats that you put there and send out the links to you so you have them as well. On both platforms, if we don't get to your question at the end of today, a member of our team will reach out to you via email so we can get that answered. And then just a disclaimer, this is a roast, so we've anonymized all the submissions because this isn't a roast of people, it's a roast of strategies. So if you see something familiar, don't worry, we're laughing with you mostly. The goal today is to have fun and share insights and learn together with just, a little bit of friendly fire. So please don't get offended. Without further ado, let's get to our amazing panelists today. So these are people who have seen every kind of shipping disaster you can imagine, and several you probably wish you didn't. So let's kick it off with Tony.
Yeah, thanks for having me today. Look forward to the fun conversation here. I need to get a new profile pic here and use less hair gel next time for the next roast slide. Yeah, but look forward to the conversation today. It's been fun planning this.
Hi, I'm Jen. Is it me? No?
Yeah, Jen, you're up.
Okay, thanks. Hi, I'm Jen. I'm from Ship Happens. I run a blog and media platform where we try to make supply chain and logistics make sense for small and medium-sized businesses and people in the world of logistics as well. So I'm excited to be a little mean today.
All right, Jim, you're up. Come on.
Should I go? Okay, yeah. Jim Rose here, and yeah, I'm going to also work on a hair gel solution for the next time. But I've been in the business for decades. I've seen it all, and I'm really pleased to be here with ProShip. A great solution, great people, and a great partner, and looking forward to having some fun. Thank you, Taylor.
And I guess that leaves me, Matt Boland. Thanks for having me. Really excited that ProShip is, as they always have, thinking out of the box, right? Or inviting someone from an order management platform to participate. So that's exciting. Get a little bit of different perspective on how things can happen in a strategy and how something other than the standard, what you might think of shipping solutions as being an impactful solution. So thanks for having me there. I actually not only have been in software, but I worked for United Parcel Service for 13 years. So I've seen lots of packages. I've seen how things can happen adversely in particular peak seasons. Again, thanks for having me, Taylor. For those of you who are participating in my online poll, the winner of the gift from ProShip was Woodford Reserve. So along with my pint, I will be sure to have a little bit of this, and hopefully that'll let my inhibitions go down as we go forward. Thanks, Taylor. Back to you.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, guys. All right. So now that you have met who is on the hook today for our commentary, let's get to our first peak season fail. And it's going to look like I'm reading off of screens because I am. I want to get it right. All right. So scenario number one, we have based our 2025 peak forecast largely on last year's performance and didn't anticipate the surge from a new influencer-driven product line that went viral right before Thanksgiving. We exceeded our carrier thresholds on the first day of peak, triggered multiple penalty tiers, and had to secure emergency allocations with 2 national carriers. The result was 5 days of volume holds and significant unplanned costs.
So, like, no one talks to each other at that company, like, ever? They just, everybody just stays in their corners and no one talks to each other. No one's ever been out to beers together. Nothing. The fact that there was like a TikTok, something happening on TikTok and no one knew about it is wild work, to be honest.
Yeah, Jen, you know, I agree. Who's in charge here? Who's in charge of planning? This is a critical failure. It's a classic success-induced crisis, right? It's a good to have because it's better than, you know, failing altogether. But you have to you need to really align your departments, right? You need to align marketing with operations, and if you don't, the consequences are clear. You're going to have unsatisfied customers, higher shipping costs, and so, you know, we really recommend good interdepartmental communication so that you can prepare for things like that, things like this. Many companies aren't technologically equipped, of course, to even if you believe you have backup strategies and ways of dealing with these things. But if you're not, you really ought to. And this is a mistake I hope you know they only make one time.
Yeah, it's definitely like a good learning lesson of like what systems are you using, right? Are they still siloed? It's the typical kind of, you know, siloed company from communication point for your mentioned, Jen. But yeah, a lot of it goes, you know, from a carrier perspective is, you know, the typical strategy of we only had 1 or 2 carriers that we were going to fulfill for. Like that, you know, what was your excess capacity? Are you leveraging retail regionals or other modes besides a traditional, you know, national carrier, right? I think that's the excess capacity is it's hard to plan for in a 1 or 2 year negotiation cycle with carriers, but you always have to have that contingency plan. You know, people should be smarter. You should already know from the COVID pandemic years of carrier caps. You know, don't repeat that mistake of kind of getting caught with a carrier capacity constraint. And now, if it's new products or now, you know, changing dynamics of how people buy, you know, I guess just more of a sounding board, you know, as ever of, you know, what else do you need to plan for contingency wise? I think some of the mousetrap is harder to put on, right? So obviously TikTok shop the last 2 months and TikTok shipping is wreaked some havoc, particularly for 3PLs supporting brands.
Just a little.
Yeah. And so like nobody probably planned for that in January, early February this year off the heels of peak. But it's a really dynamic world, and it'll be interesting to see what the next couple challenges are. To your point, Jim, sometimes they're good problems to solve, better than a decline of sales in this case.
Yeah, if I were to, geez, we haven't talked all over each other yet. This is pretty good. I'm jumping in right on my.
All right, what?
All right, hey, slow down, everybody.
Get a couple drinks in.
I take a little bit of an OMS perspective on this too. Is like when all else fails in planning, I start to think about visibility, right? And do you have visibility into every way to lessen that constraint, right? That you have maybe at the dock or something like that. Are you leveraging all the inventory in your network to the point earlier? I think it was Tony who said it. Like, are your systems talking to each other? Are you understanding your distributed network when something hits hard, like an influencer or something like that? Are you able to marry? This is really a good question. Are you able to marry, like, I don't know if this is a retailer or a distributor or manufacturer. I like to think of this from the aspect of like maybe they're a brand, right? So they have B2B and they have B2C. Are those things within your organization, again, to an earlier point, siloed, right? How can you make sure that you're fulfilling orders across your network that might limit the constraint at your dock door by having orders moving off to maybe fulfillment from in-store or fulfillment from the 3PL? If you don't have that visibility, that inventory, you can't make kind of those decisions that say, you know what, fulfill this order from that location versus this one where our carriers can't handle the capacity. Maybe even shut down this location and fulfill from these other 3 DCs because here locally in this geo, we can't handle it anymore. We've got to shut this location down. And if you can't do that through your systems really quickly, then the orders just keep piling up and piling up. How do you distribute those orders equally across your distribution network? Can really help to lessen that constraint that you're having, like at the dock door or a specific geographical region. And that's where business logic within something like an OMS can pick the locations to ship from. Sorry, go ahead.
But also, who okayed this TikTok program to start during peak season as well?
Right.
That person's an idiot. Frankly, listen, it's all those launching something that is going to drive sales. Do that in the slower season when you're trying to get sales and you're struggling. Peak season is not the time to do that. I don't know what to say. Which is unusual for me, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe it's just overconfidence, right? Timing is never on anybody's side. So overconfidence of, hey, we can handle all the excess sales and everything that comes on. It's a little bit of maybe protecting your job, right? I'll sign up for more. I think from a partners, there's systems, but there's also your 3PL partners, right? Jen, exactly. I think you said when we were talking about this the other day in prep for this, right? Where are your friends? Do you have friends? There are people you can call to help kind of give you some more of that capacity or some more capabilities instead of signing it all up for yourself, right? So
exactly. And what ends up happening, again, back to visibility, if you don't understand the an ERP doesn't necessarily understand the inventory that exists within the network unless it's inside of its financial package. So, it has to own it somehow or another. If it doesn't own it, it doesn't see it. So again, that ability to say, oh my goodness, we're spiking, and we use the 3PL just for the B2B orders. But now with this visibility, we can say, take some of this stuff from the B2B orders to fill the higher margin online orders because this influencer is driving volume, right? Those kind of plans, if you don't have the right plan, you have to have a plan to pivot, right? You have to have a plan to flex.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Jim.
It says right at the beginning, we didn't anticipate the surge from this new influencer the night before Thanksgiving. That's just terrible communication, interdepartmental communication, and terrible leadership. You have to bridge that gap some way. You have to get departments together. You have to have people talking so they can prepare, and anybody can prepare for the knowns. You have to prepare for the unknowns. And again, just a classic lack of planning, lack of leadership. This is an area that I hope it only happens once.
I'm going to say one more thing because I'm going to stick up for. I'm going to
you
stick
guys
up
better,
for this
otherwise
person.
I'm cutting you off.
All right.
What's
well,
one thing?
We were only doing one scenario, right? Or are there others? Okay.
Do we have
just
more?
one thing. Let's just roll. But to that point, right? This could be an existing bunch of products that all of a sudden some influencer just picked up, right? They could have been planning. They may not have known this influencer was going to do this. How do you to your point, Jim, how do you plan for the unknown? You plan for the unknown by having systems and strategies that enable you to pivot when something goes not wrong, when something goes right, right? This is going right for this organization. Product has been picked
that kind of influencer thing is rare. Let's be honest. The odds of this being an accidental influencer situation is so rare, especially now. Listen, no, like, let's be real. Like, somebody
The
knew
road.
that
The
influencer
road.
had that product. Like, that someone knew. One after work beer could have fixed this whole scenario way ahead of time.
Well, and is it more of a symptom of the business? Is it a long-standing brand with mature systems that doesn't have agility is trying to be cool or relevant, and that's a business growth area, while being cool and relevant rears its ugly head, right? Like, is it a legacy business from systems or processes or people there that now you need a new way of thinking, you need a new a new path forward and with current times? Because it could be it could be the director of logistics or whoever's negotiating the contracts that might find out about these trends 6 months later from their kids or their grandkids, rather than being on the cusp of it all, right? It's a little bit of a change in mindset and agility of the business as systems and people, but it's just also adapting to the times, right?
I didn't know
Cultural.
my one more thing was going
All
to
right,
cause this,
everybody
but I'm going to roast. No, I'm going to roast Tony right now because he invented a new word, relevant. I know he meant relevant. So Tony, I expect this
There
to
you
go
go.
back to me. When I say something wrong, I expect you to get me, but it is a roast.
Whoa.
All right, moving on, because this next one, nope, no more. This next, this next one is like absolute chaos to me, and I really want to get to it. So sorry. Let me read from my script real quick. Okay, so scenario 2, we rolled out a new automated print and apply system earlier in 2025 and thought all carrier service mappings were fully validated. On Cyber Monday, we discovered the automation was assigning the wrong service to roughly 30% of shipments. This is wild. We had to divert labor to manually relabel more than 20,000 packages overnight, which caused a 2-day downstream delay and forced us to temporarily revert to manual processing. So I'm sorry,
Is
but
this
I'm
real or
gonna
did you make it up,
start
Taylor?
20,000 packages overnight manually. How many people quit after that or didn't show up to help you? 2, unhappy exec team, I'd assume. Do you still have a job? Like, are you here? What happened? Are you okay?
No one's in the room now. It's just crickets now.
Is this a real one or did you make this up for the
This is
purposes
real.
Yeesh.
This is real. I mean, it's what
Okay.
someone submitted. Maybe they
Now I break out my gift from you, Taylor.
spoofed it a little, but
Oh,
this is
Lord. Hashtag open to work.
Bill. All right, Jim, I'm going to start with you.
It's just classic here, not adequately testing. You could tell I'm the elder here. I've been doing this for decades, and often I will get a phone call. We're in a crisis situation. We've got a real issue, and I always say the same thing. How much did you test? Did you adequately test? Did you test all scenarios? It's just so common, and I don't understand that, especially going into peak, how somebody can be, I'm going to say dumb enough, because this is a roast, so I'm going to say, how can you be dumb
Don't
enough?
get too crazy, Jim.
Well, you used idiot. I can use dumb, I think. But how can you be dumb enough to go into peak in an unattended, in motion, high speed situation without having tested everything, every scenario? And funnily enough, there's a lot of dumbness out there. This happens more frequently than you would expect. But if you don't test every scenario, it's an assurance. It's Murphy's Law. It's guaranteed you are going to have a problem that's going to come back to haunt you. And testing. You've heard drill, and this, that. Test. It needs to be tested, every scenario, over and over again. And by the way, no human has the capacity to understand how long it takes to test something. Testing for success requires being unleashed, just letting the person test all the scenarios and keep finding things wrong until there isn't anything wrong, and nobody knows how long that's going to take. people who think they know how long that's going to take are fooling themselves and fooling everybody else and setting themselves up for disaster. So, plan early, plan often, test early, test often, and don't go live till you've tested every scenario or you'll regret it.
What we should have put up here is like the Spider-Man meme, because you can imagine the finger pointing that was happening, either in the operations or back to the vendors. And this kind of screams like a bit of like lack of ownership, right? It's very easy. You got your vendors in, you got your partners in, but, it was their responsibility to test. Sometimes it comes down to ownership within the operation and, who is owning the systems, right? To your point, Jim, giving yourself adequate timing, right? Sometimes that just isn't real, right? You have deadlines you got to meet. So the same pissed off executive that's, forced you to do open to work on LinkedIn may have also forced you to go live. It's a bit of an unforgiving world that supply chains and business deadlines, for probably good reasons, create, right? So, giving yourself more than enough buffer time to test, yes, but then also just internal ownership, right? If we've all had great partnerships with different brands and shippers that own things completely, and you are a part of the team. We've also had relationships where all ship rolls downhill, and at some point, the vendors are left picking up the pieces, right? So
it's giving that someone just kind of was told to test it and tested a couple things and was like, that's fine. Because it's likely that this company, based off the idea of the ownership thing, culture wise, if they didn't test the way that they should have, the odds are that their baseline structure or organization and operations was probably not great to start with. And they were just like, you know what, we're just going to throw some tech on top of this and everything will be great. And they were just like, it's fine, we can all move on now. And nobody really thought about it again after that. And then when it screwed up, they're all like, oh my God, who could have known? Surprise, Pikachu emoji. Oh my God, who could have predicted this? Everyone could have predicted this.
Yeah, just remember, it's the unpredictable stuff that really buries an organization. When things are going smoothly, everything's working, everybody's happy, but things don't go smoothly, not in this business. And you need to mitigate risk and be prepared. And again, test.
Yeah. Again, I go back to systems, and I think, when you work with an order management system that kind of owns the process from inventory to cash, right? That whole process, it's monitoring all the activity that's going on within all these different systems. It's not like, you can't rely on middleware that just messages, sends a message from one system and to another and waits for some kind of response back from another system. You have to have systems that are intuitive and are talking and are applying business logic to all the different steps in a workflow. So when the printer prints something that's different than what the order expects, there's a disconnect and there's a discrepancy and there's an exception that gets waived. So of course, somebody should be doing that QA testing, to your point of, matching, that manual match. But when all else fails, because things are cranking, everybody's working, just getting stuff out the door, order in, order out, order in, order out. Systems that can have the layer of business logic, or dare I say it, AI, right? That's looking for things and looking for anomalies and looking for mistakes constantly. There might have been something there. And again, relying on middleware just to be sending messages back and forth, message out, receiving an answer back, but not not giving you any quality assurance or testing around, not testing, quality assurance around the result that comes back to match is, it's just not scalable, right? It just doesn't work that way. And that's where systems that monitor activities, understand SLAs, understand the requirements of right down to an individual order, can make a difference in an end-to-end workflow and how things are processed and the results that you get at the end of the day.
Yeah, anybody that bought that automation tool at Modex and left that conference with, hey, here's the sales pitch, I'm going to go get it in play. It's always tough to make it work, right? So yeah, I was thinking back to this. It's the automation is supposed to reduce your temporary manual labor, actually create more of it, right? It's a bit the irony in the situation, right? And so that ROI of that automation equipment coming out of Modex or ProMat or whatever conference that it was pitched at for the ROI of headcount reduction is flipped on its head a bit. Might need a few more years for ROI on that project.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I am getting yelled at that we need to move on. I can't believe it's the bottom of the hour already. So let's pivot to scenario 3. And this one has to do a lot with budget problems. So to manage peak season costs, we allocated a large share of our volume to a regional carrier offering competitive rates. Their network became overwhelmed by early December, leading to significant backlogs at their main hub. We ultimately had to pull back part of our freight and reinduct it with other carriers, which disrupted our SLAs and introduced unexpected handling and transportation costs. I feel like this is more and more common these days. Jed?
I mean,
in order to help you catch up, I won't talk about during this one. Good, Jen. Sorry.
To quote Miranda Priestley, if anybody knows where that's from,
I do.
buying on rates, groundbreaking. That's not a shock at all. Like, we've all seen this so many times where somebody is like, you know what? We're paying too much for our trucking rates or our carrier rates or whatever rates. And they run back and they look for somebody else. They buy somebody cheaper. And then again, they're like, oh my God, they can't support us during the busy time. Who could have predicted this? Again, everyone can predict this. Anybody that's been doing this for more than 2 years could tell you that this was going to happen. And it's, as clearly I have thoughts on this, it drives me crazy because there are so many other places that you can look for savings in your operation. And so the fact that people keep falling back to rates every single time is just laziness, honestly. There's other places to go and look. I'm sure I could walk into any warehouse and find at least one area where money is like flowing out the door where it doesn't need to. And you can just make a small change and like fix that and then have some savings without having to like beat your carriers into like a low rate.
And I feel like it's kind of crazy now because I've seen people go to these smaller pop-up type carriers, and with the volatility in the carrier market today, like, will that carrier be around still in a month, in 6 months, come peak? Like,
right.
You got to find a balance of risk if you're unhappy and the stability behind why some of these national carriers have been around for so long.
That's right.
Taylor, everybody beats up on carriers because they're expensive. They raise their rates every year, and they come up with a 5.9% increase, and then you find out your spend went up 15.9%. After the year is done. So there's a lot of reasons why people get upset at the national carriers, but clearly this is another misguided situation because you have to realize that you can't buy parcel carrier rates like you buy a toaster oven. It doesn't work that way. Toaster oven isn't your partner. A parcel carrier is your partner. And that's why UPS and FedEx stocks are rising. That's why they're, just doing as well as they are. You can't select based on price alone because there's always going to be this low price dangling in front of you. And most of the time, people that get this low price really don't know how to optimize their contract rates to get the most out of it to begin with. And you need good technology to do that, like ProShip. But there's you have to communicate with your partner, your parcel carrier. You have to let them know about anticipated volumes, and you have to have a relationship, and that relationship has to be honest, where they can tell you we can handle it or we can't, and you need enough advance notice to be able to plan. So like everything else, this is leadership based, it's experience based, and these things happen, right? But let's hope it doesn't happen a second time. Let's hope whoever this happened to learned their lesson and understand that it's not just about, you know, the low rate, because that's long forgotten when your customers aren't getting their orders and you're having to pay, you know, double the amount that you expected for transportation costs. The low price tag is long forgotten when a crisis occurs. Just remember that.
Yeah, history.
Jim
I
is
mean,
so
history is.
optimistic.
What's that?
Said Jim is so optimistic.
Well, this scenario is like, was the shipper, Matt, earlier you're kind of the affirmative position, right? Like, was the shipper bullied into getting cheaper rates? You know, like that's the market pressures. Were they bullied into getting that regional because, you know, it wasn't just 15%, it was 25% the year before from a cost increase or a fuel surcharge here or there. And then all of a sudden it's 8 times a year that a fuel surcharge gets increased, even after you've negotiated a rate, right? So, you know, did they get bullied into this? And that's some of the ramifications of, you know, the ebbs and flows, right? History will repeat itself, right? There's always the carrier market, the shipper's market from a negotiation positioning perspective. And they'll always find a way to get something on your invoice that wasn't quite expected, right? But I think that's where knowing where you're getting pushed, maybe piloting a carrier, testing out that network, you know, back to having friends in the industry. Other people have gone through this. Maybe you don't have to. There are probably some shining moments where regional carriers have overperformed above expectations, and maybe lean into some of those if you're in the geographies, right? Not everybody can just set up a line haul from a single facility to take advantage of regionals, but there definitely are more and more options out there. So it's tough to sift through. It's not an easy proposition. The
bad thing about
get
this,
back to the corner.
The bad thing about this scenario is the ship is sailed, right? It's all in their DC. It's like anything that you could have done prior to, or any pivots you could have made, you've got this unforeseen experience where it sounds like, you know, the drivers just keep picking up, bringing it to the DC, and there's nobody there to process it. Tough recovery from there. I mean, once, you know, it sounds like all of the systems did what they were supposed to do, got it to the right carrier based on something, but now the ship is sailed. It's all out of your control, right? Now, I mean, their pivot worked, but it cost them an awful lot of money in expedited shipment, right? And, you know, to the point of earlier conversations, hashtag open to work. I mean, heads will roll, I guess, right? Somebody's head is going to roll. And I'm sorry, I lied. I said I wouldn't jump in on this one, and I did. So.
Well, no, I mean, especially thin margin businesses, right? I mean,
increase,
right? It might not be the person that made the decision that ultimately gets the open to work on LinkedIn. It's somebody else in the organization, right? But that margin erosion is real. Jen, to your point too, you can find other ways to get savings besides just the easy button that a consultant to walk you into a negotiation room and tell you what to say, right? I mean, that's definitely an approach. It's not the wrong approach, but it's got to be coupled with others, right?
I
Right.
mean, you can check out my blog. I wrote a whole blog on ways to save money that
Post
aren't
it.
rates.
There you go.
In
Nice
here.
plug. There you go.
Post it in the chat.
I should.
All right. Are we thinking we're done with this one?
Oh, don't ask, because
all right, we're going to be done with this one. So, I mean, I guess it's an important reminder that cheap rates come with expensive lessons. It kind of reminds me of something. My husband's in garage doors, and he always says, you know, door repairs are cheaper than medical bills, so call a professional. So it kind of reminds me of that. But Anyway,
That's what my wife said
I
after the
digress.
last time I cleaned my gutters. Yeah.
Oh, no. All right, so scenario four. Our shipping stack relies on a modular API-first architecture with multiple microservices. During peak traffic on Cyber Monday, one of our decisioning services hit intermittent latency issues. Label generation slowed by more than a minute, which backed up our conveyor, paused parts of our automation, and forced us to temporarily remove 2 carriers from our routing options. Because several systems were involved, it took days to fully trace and resolve the root cause. So, yeah, I feel like a lot of people are running into this. I feel like, APIs are better than they used to be, carry APIs specifically. But if you're in a high volume warehouse that has a lot of automation, conveyors, box building machines, a FedEx API that's returning at 12-second response time on Cyber Monday is going to put stuff through the jackpot lane. Nobody likes that.
Yeah, it's really the analogy of you get the rental car. It's a good cheap rental car. It's quick to get into. National, you pick and go, and then you got to turn on the New Jersey Turnpike and a 4-cylinder, Kia, and you got semis, coming up your backside, right? So I think carrier APIs definitely have a place. Don't get me wrong, right? But the industry, I think, is getting kind of pushed to carrier APIs. Carriers trying to leverage those investments they made in the technology, right? And they've gotten better, but it's another risk factor for a shipper to add to their stack versus traditional kind of manifesting systems. And so, some carriers are forcing APIs, again, kind of getting bullied into lower rates. Sometimes you're getting bullied into tech stacks that aren't maybe as performant as you need them to be for your operation. Sometimes you're not picking the right vendor. It's a plug for ProShip as far as kind of speed and throughput. But sometimes the vendor that is we'll get you live up and running in 3 weeks, don't worry about it, isn't the one that's always answering their phone during kind of critical Cyber Monday operations, right? And that kind of goes back to ownership, who your friends are, have you partner as well. So I don't know if anyone wants to pick off of that, but that was it's a personal experience of having a 4-cylinder trying to get on the New Jersey Turnpike, and will not happen again. Will not happen.
Just stay in the right lane.
Yes.
This one irritates the hell out of me, and for the first 20 years of my career, we installed software on premise, including ProShips, and then we went to API, and I used to sit in front of executives, and they used to say, "You think we're going to start shipping and use APIs versus on premise?" And we said, "Well, that's the trend, and now everyone's doing it, right?"
Trends, right?
It was a trend. Now everyone's doing it, and people are starting to realize what I've been saying for decades. Read the API agreements. The carrier is telling you firsthand, we don't guarantee this is going to be up 100% of the time. So you have
99.99999%. Sorry.
You just happen to find that 0.1.
But it's just not going to be up. You can't guarantee it. It's impossible. There's hackers, there's network issues, there's viruses, there's all sorts of things that go wrong today. And you need to prepare for those things. And so, the carrier's telling you we're not going to guarantee it 100% of the time. So be prepared for those times of 1% or 2% of the times when it's not up or when it is responding very slowly. Any seasoned executive responsible for entering peak season without a backup strategy in this situation is, really should just go do something else, like, open up a chocolaterie or something. That's how I view it.
I love that you go to chocolaterie as like the option. It's just so random. I love that. This one, I don't have a lot to say on this one. I don't really understand how APIs work. All I can say is that you should have some backup options. That's all I got for this. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that, when you talk about stuff like this, if you're piecing together and cobbling together a whole bunch of APIs from all these different vendors and piecing together these workflows, you're just asking for error. You're asking for challenge. You're asking for breakages within your system. I like to think of what we do here with the OMS is, with the order management system is, the application comes out with a library of APIs that are pre-configured that have been tested over and over again. So you're dealing with one person, right? Or one vendor in the case of Infios that is, creating these APIs that are common, and are used over multiple times. We have a client who, if I won't take too much time unless later on we can talk a little bit more about it, but the APIs that are put together for their business workflow, they in their peak season had 2 million transactions in a day. Now that doesn't mean that it necessarily runs all the way through our order management system, but at some point in the workflow of hitting like the ProShip system or to get a rate, or hitting the warehouse system to make an inventory call, all of these are different APIs to different systems, but you're still dealing with one vendor responsible for those APIs. That's the way to think, right? In these kind of situations. So 2 million hits on APIs, various different APIs in a day is huge for a peak season. And to be able to successfully say at the end of the day, in fact, this customer said to us, there aren't many companies that can keep up with us, and you guys did. And that's a testament to testing these things over and over again. And find a vendor in your network who, especially technology, who owns that process, right? Owns that workflow process from inventory to cash, right? Who is responsible for that process? Because that's all the integrations that are happening, all the business logic that's layered in. And, in the case of what we do for our customers' peak seasons, we bring up war rooms, guys who are monitoring that customer every day throughout their peak season, saying, oh, we see an anomaly, or oops, we're seeing a stall in where's the stall exists. We're actually doing this on behalf of the customer to make sure their peak season flies. And it's a testament to the guys in the back rooms, right, that you don't think about, who are constantly watching these things. But make sure that you're not just buying this. Tony, you can probably appreciate this, and Taylor, not buying APIs off of a marketplace, right? Marketplaces are great to find APIs, but you don't want to be cobbling together microservice after microservice and API after API. Consolidate those things as much as you can.
Yeah, I think that's the last takeaway I'll have on here is like APIs and simplicity of connectivity, and how quick you can start using something has commoditized, from a shipping perspective, and then it ultimately commoditizes the customer's operations. You start making decisions that aren't best practices to try and fit into this technology window, and I've seen it personally, right? A customer or a prospect may be leveraging a inferior solution. They've changed their entire warehouse workflow just for that one stopgap. And so why would you have one of your 15 vendors in a warehouse could be controlling the entire workflow when it isn't the WMS, isn't the automation equipment? And so having that flexibility is, what we obviously provide at ProShip, but it's an interesting, I guess, dynamic in the industry that we've come across as far as embracing slowness and doing some more things upstream, or the WMS has to do more work, OMS has to do more work for the lack of speed or capabilities downstream where you hit the actual bottleneck, right? So it's just moving the problem around instead of addressing the best practice approach, which sometimes takes a little bit longer, sometimes takes some ownership internally, isn't always the easy button as well. So
I wouldn't build my strategies around my entire strat. There's a great guy out there, and I recommend it to the crowd. I've written a few articles, but I'm not an expert. Read a guy by the name of Sam Newman out on LinkedIn, and he talks about microservices and this stuff, and he loves microservices, but he says, unless you are a software development or you have a software development company within your business, microservices aren't really the way to go. You want to find a company that does 80% of what you need or 90% of what you need, and then plug the little gaps with an occasional microservice or an occasional API. I'm watching the clock, Taylor, so I'll stop.
I'm ready. I came out to just come holler at you. All right. So we want to move on to our last scenario. And it's all about store level communication, which, you know, we handpicked just because Matt Bolin graced us with his presence today, and we thought he could answer this one pretty good. So here it is. We ramped up ship from store for peak, but our order management system wasn't fully integrated with shipment execution at the store level. Orders were fulfilled, but shipment confirmations and tracking weren't consistently written back to the OMS. Customers saw orders stuck in processing while packages were already in transit, driving a spike in WISMO tickets and forcing customer service to manually reconcile order and shipment data during peak. And go.
Ugh. That's all I got to say. Ugh. No, actually, this is the.
Is that all you have to say?
That's it.
That's about it.
Jump in, Jen.
I don't believe you.
Have more.
I'm growling. I'm still growling.
Yeah. Actually, the six. I guess you could. It is a success story. Maybe I'll put it in the chat before I'm done. But the customer that I was talking about that was hitting our system 2 million transactions a day was actually doing ship from store and buy online pickup in store. So, you know, those systems, absolutely, there's nothing more I can say except that inventory accuracy, near real-time inventory understanding, systems communicating back and forth. This is actually one of the companies we brought up a war room for. They did 1.6 million orders during their peak, which is only about 3 to 4 weeks. I think I can tell you who it is. It's Spirit Halloween, right? So if you think about that company, you see those stores pop up nationwide, right? And then they bring them down, right? Bring them up, bring them down. Somewhere between 1,400, 2,000 stores. I can't remember the exact
if there's
number.
ever a building that went out of business.
Exactly. And
Spirit Halloween is going to go right in there.
That's exactly right. So not only is it a testament to the software, but it's a testament to their business, their ability to do this, right? And having real-time inventory accuracy, understanding systems talking to each other, just that ability, like giving your client an estimated delivery date. I could go on and on this topic, but think about the capabilities that has to happen for that small peak season that is, you know, if you don't have that gift by Halloween, it's not like you can give them the gift after Christmas, right? It's, you know, wait till next year, right? So if there's a failure, you know, that's not something that you dress up and go to the office as, you know, Uncle Sam 3 days after Halloween. You have to have that in time for the party. And that's what they were doing there, is all these transactions, all this volume, sub-second calls to understand inventory, to make the promise at the store level, to ship that from store, be ready to buy online and pick up in store. Sometimes even store transfers in multi-line level types of shipments. Not only am I ordering the costume, but I'm ordering I'm ordering 2 costumes, right? One happens to be in one store, one happens to be in the other. The system having the logic to say, let's first do a in-store transfer and then let's ship it out, right? To the client, or let's do an in-store transfer so that Uncle Sam's outfit meets up with, you know, Pumbaa from Lion King, right? and the 2 are there in the store to be picked up, or the 2 are there in the store to be shipped out in a consolidated manner. If you're doing split line shipments, or those things aren't arriving at the estimated delivery date, immediately, to your point, WISMO, right? If you're shipping from 2 separate locations, WISMO, right? Where's my order? I got one piece, where's the other one? Communicating that stuff back at the line level so that customers understand what's happening is all about reducing that WISMO. And this is one of those, and I'll stop right here. This is one of those one of those angles where we're incorporating the AI to handle the Wizmo types of requests and inquiries, so that you're taking the burden off of the call center, right? To say, okay, I'm the AI agent. I understand where all those line items are. I can tell that to the customer without it having to be human interference where somebody has to hunt and peck systems. Because again, the order management's responsibility is the system of process, the single version of the truth, that it accelerates all that stuff into one view that both the customer and the organization have toward what's happening in the business. Whew,
yeah, I think
I'm thirsty.
Yeah, that was a lot, but it was good. I think I remember back.
That was a lot.
I remember back to a saying here during COVID pandemic, and the soccer mom finally understood logistics, right? So everybody understood what it was going to take when Target was out of stock and when they were going to get their shipment to their house, right? They knew, I'm in Milwaukee, it's going to go to Chicago or Rockford UPS hub, right? The person never had to think about shipping, and that's still around today. So Wizmo is even more important. It's almost less about did you get it there in a day and more about did you communicate throughout the whole process, right? So did you make it visible to eliminate that call because they already know it's this carrier. They usually come around 4:00, and European market, they already have a preferred carrier and know the person. U.S. market was always just get it to me as quickly as possible until it just didn't show up, and now it's a big problem for businesses and visibility being key. And then I was just this scenario just being data's got to flow, pick the right partners, have that internal ownership, test, right?
I think this is also back to another issue of lack of testing. You wouldn't use a new foundation on your wedding day. That's crazy. So why are people out here deciding to trial this out during peak season? That just seems crazy.
Everyone's
work to me.
Super confident.
Listen, if I had that kind of confidence, man, look out. It's over for the rest of you. I'm taking over. If I had that kind of confidence, I'd be running all kinds of things all over the place. I'd be doing so well. But this whole idea of just trying things out right before or leading into peak season is peak chaos vibes. I feel like an Aries decided that or something. I don't know.
Well, this year was interesting though, and maybe it was some of the business pause with the tariffs in 2025 at the front end of the year, but there was definitely a lot of things being slammed in pre-peak, at least from our experience. This was a first for me. I've been about 15 years in the space, but had multiple people ask us what ProShip's code freeze was, which is very interesting to try and answer that question this year because of just some of the chaos that maybe, in my opinion, tariffs slowed down any progress of peak planning and what are we going to do for 2025. And that all started, July 4th instead of March 4th, like normal years. But that was the first this year, Jennifer, a lot of things were happening late. A lot of code freezes were being pushed. It was the first year I had to answer multiple times when our code freeze was when we don't have a code freeze. It's our customers to choose, right? Back to ownership or things like that. So very interesting 2025 peak. And I'm sure 2026 will be just as interesting in a different way.
Yeah, there was just a comment in the chat about AI doing the wrong things. I'll tell you a little bit about our AI, and I would expect maybe ProShip's got kind of the same strategy, and would welcome to hear it. We're not an AI company, right? Looking for customers with problems to create AI use cases, right? We use standards. We have over 1,000 years of supply chain experience that are creating those AI queries and things like that. So I think it's really important. Don't go out there and find just an AI company that says, oh yeah, I know supply chain, right? Look for supply chain people who are incorporating AI. Look for transportation companies like ProShip. How are you utilizing AI to make your solutions better? Don't just, do it yourself or find an AI company out there that says, we have AI for whatever your solution is or whatever it is you need.
Anything you want. We got it. Okay. All right. We are nearing the top of the hour. So we've survived all of today's peak season horror stories. Cringe, very cringy. But thank you all for sticking with us. If you do have questions, put them in the Q&A. Please don't be shy. We won't roast you, at least not too badly. But before that, I do want to get to our panelists and give them the stage to just give, some last minute thoughts. What's your final advice? What do you want people to walk away with from this session, other than what not to do? Jen, let's start with you.
Did you say Jen or Jim?
Jen.
Sorry.
Jim's had a few too many already.
Ladies first.
Look,
I'm drinking pomegranate green tea. I don't know what you guys are drinking,
that
but
stuff will really get you sometimes, Jim. Sometimes the issue isn't with the software or the strategy. Sometimes it's with the people and how the culture is built in the company. If testing isn't happening, even when it's supposed to, Q&A is not happening, if things are being slapped on top of bad processes, you're still going to have those issues. And so you need to kind of look at the culture of your business first and the people, and make sure that those things are working the way that they should before you start slapping on software and other tech and things like that, because it'll just compound your issues. So that's all I got.
Beautifully said.
Cheers.
All right, Jim, your turn.
Test. That's all I want people to do. You can't predict how long it's going to take to test. If you think you can, then you think wrong. When you call a plumber and they come over the house and they say it'll take, 2 hours to do this job and it takes 6, they can't figure out how long it's going to take to do a job. Electricians can't figure out how long it's going to take. They're building a bridge from New Jersey to New York, and they think they got a handle on how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost. And I guarantee
has a problem with the trades.
It's
had some bad experiences.
It's no different. It's just no different. Humans have no capacity to understand how long it's going to take to do something. And testing, you want to afford the tester all the time they need to get it done, or you're going to have problems. So, start early. If you're buying a TMS system or any type of solution that you're going to use during peak, now's the time to decide. Now's the time to get it going, get it installed, and give yourself a lot of time to test. So test. That's and backup. Have backups. Don't rely on internet and networking, and those are the things that you need to do to be prepared. Communicate. Interdepartmental communications, bridge the gap. Don't just say you understand what somebody is trying to tell you. If you don't understand it, just say, I don't understand what you're saying. Tell me more. Get an understanding. The influencers out there that are potentially going to drive, lots of business. That's marketing. Marketing should be speaking with operations. Finance should be involved in these discussions. That's it. That's what I got.
Thanks, Jim. All right, Matt.
Yeah, real quick. I think don't just sit back and say, what's done is done. Explore, explore what new technologies are out there. Explore how, previous seasons happened and, what the potential impacts are. Get into that vision aspect, the what if aspect that leads to the testing and all the other things that folks were talking about. And then deal with those who have done it before. I think if you need a garage door, call Taylor's husband. If you need a shipping system, call ProShip. The big thing I think is just, talk to their partner networks too. If you've got a great vendor that you work with, right? If they call us, we're going to say, talk to ProShip. If ProShip, if somebody calls you and says, hey, we're looking to improve our systems, our inventory, our order processing. ProShip folks are going to say, talk to Infios, right? Leverage the people who know the business, right? And don't be afraid to try something new. I think that too many organizations have grown up over many, many years thinking that everything begins and ends with ERP. That's not the case anymore. It's just not, right? So look at different systems to solve very specific problems. It's not always a big bang kind of a thing. Today's technology can fit very specific, very unique types of problems with very small like modules or capabilities that can be leveraged within your existing infrastructure. Think outside the box.
Yeah, that's the takeaway I was going to have, Matt. With any system change or strategy or realignment, sometimes perpetuating what you've done for the last 20 years isn't the right move. It's the comfort move, right? But some of it is take the wins where you can get them, but think outside the box. And then if you're going to think outside the box, be patient and diligent in doing so. Renegade and hey, it's going to go live in 2 months' time when you really needed 6. I mean, that's, I think, the pitfalls of a lot of these scenarios, right? And, it's never fair, right? Some of those deadlines are just never going to be fair on what's imposed for you as as the executioner in the supply chain space. But that's what I would just say is, take the wins and get the efficiencies through some change. It doesn't always have to be a huge win to get the benefits to add up.
Yeah, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? How old is that adage, right? When we talked about regional carriers and things like that who are promising you everything, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Falls back on testing and thinking and all those things. That's kind of like vet it, and then vet it again. Yeah,
we could do our next webinar on.
Let's just keep going.
AI, right? AI is the biggest one, maybe for 6 months down the road. But that is a bit of the fear of the unknown, right? So vetting peers, use your network, right? I mean, AI will absolutely take us all to the next, generation. Who wants to stub their toe first is gonna be the interesting use cases, right? But it's coming. There's no getting around it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not like blockchain, which will just went away in like 10 months as the main theme that everybody's moving to. But
put me on mute, Taylor. Quick. While you have the window.
Oh, thank you all for the final advice. Everyone who's still on with us, it's the last call for Q&A. If you want some free consulting from some really amazing panelists who've been through it, please submit your questions. Now's your chance. Don't burn the opportunity. But for now, let me just get through what we got here. We got the speaker contact info on the screen. If you do have something specific for someone, please reach out to them. Their emails are there. But some questions before we end today, and I know we're over, so I apologize. So I'll just pick like 1 or 2. Here's a good one. What is the best way to balance committing enough volume to negotiate strong rates without overcommitting and risking penalties when demand fluctuates? So this is kind of that carrier question. How do you commit enough volume but still get strong rates and not, spend a ton of money? I don't know who wants to jump at that one first.
The comment I'll make, Jim, I'll let you jump in as well too. I know you're kind of heavily involved in this, right? I mean, with shippers, I mean, the negotiation game may not be what it once was, right? I think carriers are they're pros at negotiation, and you can't expect every single time you go back to the table that it's going to be the same, negotiation win. So I do think I think it's paramount to have some backing, right? If that is peer-to-peer communication, if that is a consultant, if that is analytics and being armed with data, there's many different ways to be equipped for that scenario that you just ran through, Taylor. That would be my take is, the ebbs and flows of the industry, it isn't going to be the same as your last negotiation cycle, and you got to be ready for kind of all different ways it could go.
Jim, are you gonna?
Yeah, I think that with your national carrier, you have tiers. You have to meet your tiers, right? That's what we're hearing from our large enterprise customers. If you don't meet your tier, it's a big problem. You lose a lot of money. So you have to meet your tiers, and having the analytics will demonstrate to you what freight that you have available to give to alternative carriers. So start with knowing and predicting and doing it conservatively, of course, what freight you can commit to an alternative carrier, and start there, and make sure you have the analytics and the data that support that.
The other thing that was interesting maybe 3 years ago and really came out of capacity needs was piloting. And that doesn't always help if you're in a negotiation, you're staring down a negotiation deadline, but piloting, having that first world expertise, if you would. How easy is it for billing, booking, induction, things like that? If you can afford the luxury of time and agility to pilot a carrier, I think there'd be a number of carriers out there that would actually sign up for that. Show you what they have, what they can do. Good. We saw a few examples. They were pre-peak, and the pilots went well. The brands didn't necessarily move forward with all the carriers for peak season, but it was a good kind of ramp in the September, early October period to kind of see what's what, and then kind of go back to Old Faithful for peak. But this next cycle, they're just more educated, right? So maybe don't sign a 3-year deal, sign a 1-year deal, give yourself an out. Jen, I don't know if you have anything more on kind of your experience with it.
Well, I think too, it depends on I'll make this concise. I think that it depends on how many, what your size of business is too, right? And where you are. If you're in a region and you can go down to a regional carrier instead of a national carrier, there's some really great regional carriers out there. There's Dragonfly in Canada. There's Jitsu. There's so many good regional carriers that you could turn to. And if you are in that area or that possibility, then I would suggest doing that to kind of manage your costs, because national carriers will be a bit more expensive, I think.
Sure.
That's all I got.
Thank you all. I do have to cut us off because they're going to kick us out in 15 seconds. So I appreciate everyone for joining today. If you're a shipper, click that Let's Talk button on the top of your screen there. If not, thank you so much. And hope you have the best rest of your week. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, everybody.